You might have seen this week that Four Corners and Triple J's Hack program did a special episode all about whether online dating services like Tinder are doing enough to protect people from abuse that happens both on the platform and then when they meet up in real life. And it's raised really big questions about these services and what they can do moving forward to do better and what they've really failed to do in the past. We have Peter Marks from Access Informatics here and Rae Johnston, Science and Technology Editor with NITV. Rae, I might just get you to go back a little bit for people that haven't seen the Four Corners, and you should watch the Four Corners if you haven't. What exactly did it uncover, Rae?
So this is a really timely investigation to start off with because use of Tinder has increased dramatically since coronavirus restrictions have started. So it's really useful for people to know this information. But Triple J Hack did a public call out about safety on dating apps, and they had a few hundred people. I think it was about 400 people that they responded. Most of them were using Tinder. Nearly 50 of those that responded to this call out had reported some kind of sexual offence on the platform, and only 11 of those people had received a reply from Tinder. So this is already looking really bad. And this story detailed one particular woman who had been brutally raped and reported it to Tinder and received one of those thanks for submitting responses and absolutely nothing else. And other women have attempted to report being raped and then found that the rapist had unmatched them on the platform. And this is crucial because unmatching with someone on Tinder deletes your entire conversation history. So these rapists are unmatching to delete any evidence in the lead up to the attack and delete any way for them to be identified. And it's just horrific because essentially what's happening through these messages is grooming. They are making their victims feel comfortable enough to go to their home and then subjecting them to the most awful abuse. And Tinder isn't helping catch them.
Now, Peter, Tinder is owned by a larger group called Match Group, and one of the other things that came out of the program, which I really do encourage people to watch, you can find it on ABC iView, is that a number of former staff, in fact, I believe they contacted 90 former staff of Match Group who say that the company just isn't equipped or certainly not resourcing their complaints as the allegations they've put forward, Peter.
The former staff say that they're very under-resourced, that they're overwhelmed with complaints. The reply that is given back to people is a pretty generic one. And I think it actually says, we will not let you know what happens. So some of the people who reported to Triple J and Four Corners have said that they've then learned from other people that the same person has been abusing multiple victims and they just serially move on from one person to the next person. And something's got to happen. I think all of the social media platforms try to be as efficient in terms of staff as possible. They try to automate things, to use AI and to avoid having to have staff on board actually making decisions.
Yeah, Tinder coming out and saying that they're under-resourced and that they just don't have the capability to keep up with these kinds of reports. Is, we're talking about a parent company that makes $2.8 billion. For them to not take this seriously enough to provide proper resources for these things to be investigated and for them to assist with police investigations, that's part of that report. The New South Wales Police Assistant Commissioner said that these platforms are not helping them with their investigations at all.
In fact, I think he said that they had just an email address that they had to use to contact them, whereas some other social media actually has a liaison person. But I think Tinder, it's just you have to email and hope to get a reply.
And it's just incredible because, I think people make a lot of, you met them online, it's really dangerous. But, if you met your rapist at a pub, that pub would have to do everything in its power to help the police in their investigation. They'd have to pull security footage, they'd have to interview staff, they'd have to help identify this person and help catch them. But Tinder can just delete the message history, send out a generic message and say, sorry, we're not resourced enough to be able to help you. And it's just not good enough.
So, Rae, let's talk about what a proper solution would look like. What are the sorts of things that would at least go some way to stopping some of these horrific things that we've seen over the last couple of months?
So there's actually a service that Tinder has in the US that isn't available here in Australia, and it's called Noonlight that they team up with. It needs permission to track you at all times, and I think that's one of the things that deters people a little. And the company has been known to sell that data. So that's also another bit of a downside. But essentially, you enter information about your date, who you're meeting with, where you'll be. You can hit a panic button, and Noonlight asks you to enter a code. And if you don't turn that code off, basically, it will send a text message. And then if you don't answer that text message, it will call you. And then if you don't answer that call, they will send emergency services out to you. So that is one service that they could roll out internationally. But really the most obvious one is allow the authorities access to those messages. Don't allow perpetrators of violence to delete any evidence of what the lead up to these attacks has been, and help get these people off the platform.
I mean, I'm sure they don't actually delete those conversations when you unmatch someone. They would still be there, and I think they should add a feature so that if someone wants to use the past conversations as evidence, that the person can choose to access that again. At the moment, there's no facilities for that to help you make a complaint. And secondly, they need to have staff on the ground who answer the phone and actually act on things rather than just an email or sending a canned response.
All right, there is lots more of this in the podcast of Download This Show. And indeed, if you haven't watched it yet, you can check out that episode of Four Corners on ABC iView. Thanks, guys.